They say that nothing lasts forever. And unfortunately, for our subject today, that is very true. But what is it? What happened to the lost village of Eldridge? Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today, we will be taking a trip to Illinois to learn about one of their many lost towns, the ghost town of Eldridge. Make sure to like this video and hit the subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode. The story of the lost village of Eldridge is not one of sudden destruction, but instead one of economic decline. In the 1800s, railroads were the one form of shipping goods. It was faster than going by boat or stagecoach, and cheaper than both of those as well. It seemed like every time a new railroad was built, boom, a town would spring up out of nowhere. Small villages where farmers could live comfortably and ship their crops to market. That was until the Chicago Great Western Railway Company came along. This company refused to build train tracks to smaller towns. Instead, they only built tracks to bigger cities. This left many small farming communities cut off from the rest of the state. And that's exactly what happened to Eldridge. In 1864, Eldridge was incorporated as a village, and by 1870, it had grown to a population of 239 people. The completion of the railroad in 1871 brought prosperity to the village, which caused its population to grow rapidly, hitting 1,000 residents by 1880. Then the railroad turned on them. By the late 1880s, the railroad would no longer stop at Eldridge. But the railroad wasn't the only thing to lay waste to Eldridge. Another plague would strike and devastate the community. In 1878, a smallpox epidemic broke out in the area. The nearby cities of Moline and Rock Island tried to contain it, but the disease was spread by infected river water. The townspeople of Eldridge had no choice but to try and treat the growing number of sick townspeople. At the height of the outbreak, no one was saved. The priests wouldn't go into the homes of the infected, and the bodies were buried in shallow graves. That summer, 8 people died of the epidemic. Even though 8 doesn't sound like much compared to other outbreaks, this was a small town. Out of their 1,000 residents, 8% of them died during the epidemic. It was the worst natural disaster in the town's history, and the scars ran deep. As if losing your entire life savings and the railroad not stopping in your town anymore was enough. Now, people were afraid to come to Eldridge because of the horrible disease. There was no way to know if someone coming into town might pick it up and carry it back home. Though slowly but surely, Eldridge began to recover. People started to return to town, although the railroad still wasn't stopping there. This made trade difficult, but the people of Eldridge had a secret weapon: persistence. For decades, Eldridge pleaded with the railroad companies to bring the train back to town. But every time they said no, finally in 1928, after years of constant begging, the railroad agreed to stop in Eldridge once again. Finally, Eldridge was back on track, but it wasn't the same. By 1930, the population was only 313 residents, less than half of what they used to have. From that point on, the population would continue to dwindle. And in 1969, Eldridge was completely abandoned. The last resident, Helen Viola, moved to Davenport, just a few miles away. Her house was purchased by the county and torn down, leaving behind nothing but an empty field. Though there are still some remnants of the town left today, there is nothing left to see but farmland. Nothing stands in place of the schoolhouse, church, or the train depot. The cemetery is overgrown and hard to find. Some of the headstones have fallen over and the names have been worn down by erosion. It's almost as if the people here wanted to be forgotten. Today, we will take a walking tour of the ghost town to see what has survived. Before we do, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an exciting episode. Also, make sure to check out our new series. Every week, we bring you the most mysterious unsolved cases from around the world. It is said that the best way to get to Eldridge is to follow Cemetery Road. You will pass by a few houses, but you should ignore them. They aren't on Cemetery Road. In about 2 miles, you'll see a sign indicating you've arrived at Eldridge. Don't believe it. Keep driving straight ahead and you'll see a road to your right. Take it, and in a few hundred yards, you'll see a driveway on your left. Park your car here. You can walk the rest of the way. We begin our tour at the Eldridge Cemetery. As we said earlier, there isn't anything left of Eldridge except the cemetery and a few old foundations. Most of the headstones here are worn down, and it's hard to tell who is buried here. The oldest person we were able to find was William H. Brown, who died in 1879. That makes him the oldest person buried here and probably one of the first casualties of the smallpox epidemic. Nearby is an unknown baby. We don't know who he or she is, but we do know that they didn't make it past infancy. It's always sad to see a grave like this, especially when the name has eroded off the stone. Moving further back, we see another grave, this time for a Civil War widow. She must have been very lonely towards the end of her life. Imagine living in a house by yourself in the middle of a cornfield. As we exit the cemetery, we can see the foundations of some of the houses from back in the day. Some of these homes belonged to some of the wealthiest families in town, while others were simple shacks. Look around and you can imagine what life was like back then. The homes were close together, and there was no such thing as privacy. If you wanted to visit a friend, you could just walk across the street and knock on their door. That was if you could find their door. Many of the foundations here have been used as dumping grounds for old appliances and cars. It's sad to see this, but it's also realistic. These people worked hard their whole lives and probably didn't have the money to pay for proper disposal of their trash. If you look in the distance, you'll see a rusty old grain silo. It looks like something out of The Walking Dead. There was a farm here when Eldridge was a booming town. The farmhouse still stands, but the barn and silo are long gone. Moving on, you'll see an old foundation with a metal surveyor's marker in front of it. This was the site of the Eldridge schoolhouse. It's hard to imagine now, but back then this was the center of the town. The kids would walk here in the morning, study during the day, and then run back home in the afternoon. Next to the school was the town library. The building is long gone, but the foundation is still visible. As you walk through town, you'll come across a few more interesting things. An old wall of fireplace and even some old bottles. People throw all kinds of stuff into these ghost towns, but this stuff is the real deal. Finally, you'll come to the end of town and see an old dirt road. This was the main street, and if you walked down it, you would have seen the general store, the blacksmith, the hotel, and the train depot. The town was small, so there wasn't much else to see. But before we leave, let's take a look at the train depot. Back in the day, this was the center of town. Everything revolved around the train. When it came to shipping crops, getting supplies, and even socializing, you never knew who you would meet on the train. The walls are caved in and most of the roof is gone, but you can still make out the shape of the building. In fact, the whole structure is still standing. It may not look like much now, but back then, it was the most important building in town. And that's all that's left of Eldridge. The town was destroyed slowly, but surely, by natural disasters and economic collapse. But perhaps that's for the best. The people of Eldridge never gave up hope. They kept rebuilding and trying to make a living in their town. Maybe if they had given up, they would have been able to move on and start new lives somewhere else. Who knows? All we do know is that nothing lasts forever. Thank you for watching. We hope you learned something new. If you want to see more videos like this one, please subscribe to the channel. We also have other channels that explore the paranormal, mysterious, and the unknown. Make sure to check them out. Again, thank you for watching. Until next time.